everybody talks about it, the Strait, and it's weird, but it's cool, that it's the Strait.
George Strait is an iconic figure in country music, as every listener to his songs will tell you. On this, though, we shall dwell not on his achievements, but upon something far more intimate. George Bubba Strait Jr., his sole progeny. And I can assure you the situation is not promising. I get it. Being the son of George Strait seems like a guarantee of easy living. A calm storm, nevertheless, is building beneath the surface. Bubba Strait has been in the background for years due to some unanticipated problems, and today we will go into those struggles. We'll have to see. During his time as a college student, Bubba sought to clarify his life's purpose. George Strait, the king of country and the man who lives and breathes Billboard chart toppers, was his dad, casting a long shadow over him. It takes a lot of courage to look around and say, "You know what? I'm good." Bubba could have grabbed a guitar and followed those glittery footsteps into country music, but he didn't. Here's a man who, simply by virtue of his surname, could have strolled onto the red carpet at any Nashville recording studio. But instead, he opted for the chaos and excitement of rodeo arenas. Crazy, isn't it? Being George Strait's kid would seem to guarantee fame, money, and unending opportunities. However, what if I were to tell you that there isn't always perfection happening behind the scenes? Actually, you might be surprised to hear that things are looking bleak for the son of George Strait. Stay put, since you never know how your perspective on the Strait family will change by the conclusion. A lot began to fall into place while he was a student at Texas A&M. He didn't only use the location as a rest stop, it laid the foundation for his destiny. As his peers were staying up late to study for tests or experiment with student radio, Bubba was busy honing his equestrian and team roping abilities. Music wasn't ruled out just because he disliked it, so don't misunderstand. It was literally in his blood, A thump of horses and a flutter of lassos sent a flutter through Bubba's chest. He couldn't help but identify with the cowboy lifestyle. It was intrinsic to who he was. The cowboy persona that George Strait cultivated wasn't an act, after all. It was genuine. This was their home base: ranch life, rustic values, and expansive property. It was likely expected that the son of George Strait would be a country music tour headliner by the time he was 25. However, Bubba had alternatives. He had no interest in being an exact carbon duplicate of his father. Instead of leaving his imprint in recording studios, he aimed to build a name for himself in rodeo arenas. He did it, my friend. Not wasting any time after graduating from A&M, he set off to pursue his ambition. Jumping himself into the sport, he joined the PRCA, Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association, in 2005. Even the National Finals Rodeo was within his sights that inaugural year. It was like plunging headfirst into the ocean. The most touching thing, though, is, not content to simply observe, George Strait enthusiastically cheered on Bubba with a sense of joy that his Grammys likely couldn't match. Because they are too awesome to ignore, let's discuss some of Bubba's rodeo highlights. His father had headlined the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo several times before he entered the competition in 2006. It's like a full circle, isn't it? In 2004, he was also a part of the George Strait Team Roping Classic, an event that really pays homage to their shared loves. Bubba's rodeo career was more than a passing fad. It led him all over the United States, where he roped alongside the greatest. Surprisingly, there were occasions when the father and son worked together, envisioning George Strait collaborating with his son while playing a rope instead of a guitar. Bubba and I have been fortunate to win a couple of buckles together, and that, my friends, is the ultimate, George once stated. And what about that statement? That was the gist of it. Those buckle victories with Bubba were more important than any CMA award to George. The important part, though, begins here. Bubba didn't only forge a one-of-a-kind professional path, he also chose to remain out of the spotlight. And let's face it, such days are few and far between. Reality programs and influencer partnerships are ways that many famous people's offspring make money. Called Bubba? Absolutely not. He's like a placid storm, Well-liked and talented, he doesn't mind staying in the background. Yes, he has collaborated with his dad on songs, but even when he experiments with music, he remains in the background, allowing others to steal the show. He seems to have an innate sense of self-confidence. He's not seeking validation from others. In all candor, I think his upbringing plays a significant role. When he was a little boy, he lost his sister Jennifer in a terrible accident. That type of tragedy doesn't go away. George and Norma, his parents, looked out for him much more after that. They had already lost enough to fame. Therefore, it is understandable that Bubba would place such a high value on his solitude. For him, fame was never a desired or glittery thing. It was difficult, and perhaps even painful. Today, he and his family enjoy a low-key existence in the San Antonio region, away from the paparazzi and red carpets. He was well known for his rodeo exploits, bulls, boots, and all. But he surprised everyone when he revealed he could also compose music. Honest-to-goodness country music, not only passable tunes, but songs with actual emotion. Not alone either. In the late aughts, he began penning songs alongside his dad, George Strait. Does the thought even occur to you? Sitting down to make songs with his own son, one of the biggest legends in country music? This is the type of family togetherness that goes viral and makes it to the Billboard charts. Listen, when George Strait's 2009 album Twang came out, it was more than simply another George Strait album. It had its own unique enchantment. At that same second, Bubba Strait, the musician, became famous. His first formal writing assignment was for his dad, and that album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. He co-wrote 3 songs on it, Living for the Night, He's Got That Something Special, and Out of Sight, Out of Mind. Now give it some thought. It's as if he'd always been this good at it. Contrary to popular belief, this rodeo cowboy seamlessly transitioned into the country music industry. What makes it even better is that George Strait was really proud of it. It was the first time we had written together, and I'm very proud of that, he told Billboard in an interview. Aw, that must have made your heart melt a little. That is the voice of a father speaking with affection and true pride. It was a moment that changed George's professional trajectory, so it wasn't just a touching family occasion. George, with the aid of his own kid, was out here keeping things authentic and fresh while his friends were attempting to keep up with the ever-changing sound of country music. Living for the Night was a different kind of hit, and we really must discuss it. No. 2 on Billboard's Hot Country Songs list, it quickly became the album's most popular single. The backstory, you ask? Just George, Bubba, and their pal Dean Dillon jamming out, completely unscheduled, and by the way, Dean is like a country music god. According to George, they were simply lounging around when Bubba began spitting out lyrics and he began plucking chords. Isn't that the pinnacle of musical achievement? Feel free to let your imagination run wild without any preconceived notions or constraints. They managed to transform an unplanned jam session into an emotionally powerful hit. Did you hear the lyrics? A timeless tale of rural sadness. The protagonist is a man who seeks solace in the darkness of night, patiently waiting for the opportunity to numb his agony with a drink. Does that sound weighty to you? On the other hand, it's so open and vulnerable, so honest. You can tell that Bubba knows what it takes to write a country tune that will make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside. And collaborating with Dean Dillon and his dad, the excellent final product of the song is not surprising. Talent, timing, and that unique familial bond all came together in a perfect storm. You would assume that after such a promising debut, Bubba would have dived forward into a solo music career, released an album, begun touring, and won some accolades. However, that's incorrect. He absolutely did not choose that path. I mean, his decision reveals a lot about his character. To begin with, having George Strait as your dad must have been an immense burden. How exactly can you emerge from that gloom? Whether you liked it or not, people would always draw comparisons between you and him. And Bubba obviously didn't want to be famous or live a life of stardom. Without compromising his tranquility or personal space, he discovered a means to remain in close proximity to the music. He kept things low-key instead, occasionally continuing to write with his dad. In addition to making a cameo appearance on George's 2019 album Honky Tonk Time Machine, he co-wrote songs for the 2011 album Here for a Good Time. Thus, he did not vanish. Rather, he chose to make a more subtle but significant contribution. Additionally, isn't it lovely? While some want fame and fortune, others just do what they believe is right. Furthermore, let's face it, Bubba is a family man. Being a full-time artist is hectic and unpredictable, and his Texas home with his family doesn't fit that description. Going on a trip, staying up late, spending weeks apart from your children? Sure, I'd rather not. Rather of focusing on obtaining the bright limelight, Bubba evidently emphasized what was important to him. You must honor that. A lot of people lack the intestinal fortitude to just respond, "Nah, I'm good," when faced with the possibility of stardom. Dean Dillon, who is adept at recognizing genuine ability, reportedly said that Bubba has a real knack for writing. This suggests that Bubba could have achieved great success had he so desired, but he opted for equilibrium instead. Those closest to him were his top priority. He didn't want to be the center of attention, so he focused on adding to his dad's legacy. In a world when everyone is striving to be the best, isn't that refreshing? Though he may not be well known among music fans, Bubba Strait has unquestionably made an impression in his own subtle manner. Talent, he said, may emerge from the most unlikely of places. Creativity, he said, can be inherited. And the finest success, he said, can often be the unseen type, the sort that develops quietly across generations inside families, with nothing but love and respect binding them together. The term straight suggests that things will be easy. But as of late, I couldn't be more wrong. Is it just misfortune, or is there a more sinister force at work? Please remain with us as the events transpiring at this very moment may hold the terrible revelation of the Strait family. The very mention of the term straight conjures images of cowboy hats, sold-out arenas, and country music. Bubba Strait, though, the tale of his life is far more substantial than that. Although many would have sought the stardom that comes with having a legendary figure like George Strait as a father, Bubba took a whole other path, and I must admit it's very lovely. The constant clatter of cameras and bright lights was something he wanted no part in. No, love, solitude, family, and traditional Texas values were the foundations of his alternative course of action. And isn't that rejuvenating when you give it some serious thought? Because their love story is interesting, let's discuss Bubba and Tamara. There is no glitzy, tabloid-driven fairy tale here. It is true to form, real. In 2010, they exchanged wedding vows in San Antonio's Hyatt Regency Hill Country Resort. Think about it for a second. There would be no crazy paparazzi pursuing them and no inflated media circus. Few loved ones, some trusted friends, and a heartfelt "I do" from two individuals. Plus, isn't that the ideal? Having a romantic celebration without feeling like you have to put on a show? George Strait III, whom they lovingly refer to as Harvey, was born to them in 2012 after a few years of waiting. With the arrival of their daughter, Jillian Louise, in 2016, the Strait family circle expanded somewhat and became much more loving. This is where it hits you. Bubba has always been extremely protective of his loved ones. He refrains from posting photos of his children on Instagram. Magazines aren't interested in buying his articles. Like his own parents did for him when he was a kid, he has made sure that Harvey and Jillian are not in the spotlight. And shall we take a moment to admire that? In a world where people share every detail of their day on social media, Bubba is content to raise his children in silence, wanting nothing more than for them to just be kids and not the grandkids of a legend or some sort of online show. Just your average, everyday kids that get to experience life as it usually is. Does that happen very often? Bubba's strategy is around giving his children space to develop their own identities. Regardless matter whether Harvey decides to pick up a guitar or Jillian decides to go in a totally other path, he wants them to live life to the fullest, unencumbered by the Strait name's demands. As far as parenting goes, that is just exceptional. He's not thrusting them into the limelight against their will, but rather providing them with room to grow and plenty of affection. All right, let's speak about the place where the magic is happening: Texas. The Straits have deep roots in Texas, where they currently reside in the San Antonio region. Pearsall, Texas is around an hour away from San Antonio, and they spend a great deal of time there at their enormous 8,000-acre ranch. The tranquility and serenity of South Texas may be felt by anybody who has traveled through the region. As much more than a picturesque retreat, the ranch is fundamental to Bubba's way of life. It's the place where everyone gets together, where children run around freely, where cattle graze, and where principles like humility, respect for nature, and hard labor are not simply said, but practiced. Bubba, too? I'm sure sunsets are breathtaking, but that's not all he's viewing. He's doing it all: farming the land, caring for the cattle, and being actively involved in the family company. The ranch provides him with solace, direction, and a means of maintaining his connection to what is truly important in life. Home is more than simply a property, past events, not in the egotistical sense, but as a lasting legacy. Things like family dinners, morning chores, and dirt roads are the building blocks of this type of legacy. How much the Straits give back, without making a huge fuss about it, is likewise quietly impressive. They aren't bragging or using the charity event as a picture opportunity. They do it in honor of Bubba's sister Jennifer through the Jennifer Strait Memorial Foundation. Causes near and dear to their hearts are still receiving their support. It reflects the modesty, sincerity, and genuine purpose with which the Strait family navigates the world. What really defines Bubba, though, is that he has never let his renowned surname to define him. Not as George Strait's son, but as his own man. That is the identity he has carved out for himself. His friends say he's the most humble man you'll ever meet. He's an honest guy who wants to do his best as a spouse, father, son, and land steward. That guy is just a regular guy, as George Strait put it once. To put it simply, he isn't interested in being the center of attention. Bubba could have had it all: the limelight, the parties, the continual buzz. But he opted for genuineness over flash, sentiment over headlines, and family over stardom. Upon more reflection, it does seem quite peculiar. When it came to country music, Bubba used to be this steady, understated presence. He was never one to seek fame or amass a massive online following. I mean, he doesn't even have social media, can you believe that in this day and age? But he was always there, collaborating with his dad on songs, occasionally performing live, and providing fans with those small moments of joy. But right now, little insects, as in real crickets. As you peruse your social media feeds, you'll see absolutely nothing. On very rare occasions, his wife Tamara may share an adorable family photo on Instagram. This could be a snapshot of their Texas ranch life, a picture of their children, or something else entirely. Bubba is hardly visible in the shot even when zoomed in. People are left wondering what occurred as he is subtly pushed into the background of his own tale. It was in 2019 when he last made a significant appearance. Keep in mind that moving scene from the Houston Livestock Show and rodeo performing God and country music with George was, in all honesty, a moment that gave many people the chills. Seeing the father and son musical team perform together, as if they had always been, was a very moving and powerful experience. But then what? Not a single thing. This long, peaceful stillness, no new appearances, no new collaborations, no new composition credits. Bubba had been incredibly consistent up until that point, and that is the juicy part. He and George collaborated closely on songwriting for 5 consecutive albums. Our timeline begins in 2009 with Twang and continues through 2019 with Honky Tonk Time Machine, Love Is Everything, Here for a Good Time, and Cold Beer Conversation. There was a lot of good music made in that decade. Then, out of nowhere, 4 years of complete chaos. When there's a huge hush, people can't help but wonder. Does he have a sickness? Was there a backstage drama? Perhaps he simply became weary of the music industry. Apparently, the Strait family isn't known for publicly venting their grievances. Actually, It's the polar opposite. From the beginning, they have been exceedingly secretive, careful with their words and actions, and measured in their sharing. Thus, supporters acknowledge that, but their interest remains unsatisfied. You want to be there for the people you care about while they're gone from the group chat for an extended period of time, but you also want to know whether they're okay. That's basically the situation right now. It has been suggested that Bubba may be only preoccupied with ranch life. I mean, he's never really been into the spotlight, has he? He has responsibilities to his family and his property, and he may find that the peaceful country life is ideal. To what extent are you able to hold him responsible? The limelight and constant recording of one's every move isn't for everyone. Also, if we're being really forthright, it's lovely when people choose quiet and seclusion over the limelight and the crowds. Still, it raises the question of whether or not we will ever witness him perform live again. Is he going to get down with his dad and compose another smash hit? Or has that chapter been discreetly closed? Keep in mind that the family in question is the Strait family. They're seasoned pros who know how to steer a story. The Bubbas would handle things their own way if they wanted to announce a major change or return to the spotlight. However, at this very moment, there is an unusual, somewhat eerie silence. That stillness tells a tale all by itself in country music, a genre where tradition and narrative are paramount. Yes, the supporters are patiently waiting, paying attention. Curiosity piques. Bubba was important, so it's not that they're obnoxious or self-centered. Those albums were infused with his heart. He had a special relationship with his dad, and that showed in the music they made together. Seeing Bubba go is like losing a piece of George Strait's heritage for the fans who have been there from the beginning. Let's not get into rumors. Connection is key. This is a song about the void left by a person who left an impression, however subtle. Now we can only hope that Bubba is doing well, enjoying life, and maybe even hatching a secret plan behind the scenes. It would certainly be remarkable, wouldn't it? When you do hear from Bubba Strait, it's usually just enough to pique your interest and make you want to know more. That kind, don't you? He keeps a low profile, avoids the limelight, and doesn't cause a stir, yet his words have weight. He seems to have perfected the fine art of remaining reticent while yet leaving us with just the right amount of clues to keep us interested. Am I the only one who finds it refreshing in this age when everyone is always posting too much on social media? Let me tell you something. Bubba isn't conducting any interviews or press junkets where he talks a lot. So you might want to skip that one. Proclamations made in public? Completely absent. It's as if he glanced at the mayhem that accompanies celebrity and thought, yeah, no thanks. And who can blame him? His appearances are so much anticipated, such as the year 2023, when he and Tamara brought his children Harvey and Jillian to the CMA Lifetime Achievement Award event. It was an unusual occurrence, and a really lovely one at that. You can tell his priorities are straight from the fact that they were all there to cheer on his dad, George Strait. In keeping with his usual demeanor, Bubba remained silent, polite, and fully present, rather than grabbing a microphone or making a speech. Doesn't that have an enchanting quality about it? Bubba isn't screaming from the rooftops, but he also isn't exactly keeping quiet either. His art is a means of communication. Where he truly lets his guard down is in his music, particularly in his songwriting. Someone once stated, Bubba's songs often reflect the values and themes that define the Strait family: love, resilience, and authenticity. And I mean, spot on, right? His lyrics are filled with emotion. You can tell he's not just throwing words together for the purpose of a nice music. He's pouring actual life into those phrases. It's almost like his songs provide a sneak glimpse into what matters most to him, without him ever needing to spell it out. These uncommon statements that seem like glimpses into his soul appear every so often, to wit, his forthrightness on marriage and parenthood. Marrying is the hardest job I have ever had, he once stated, placing it second only to motherhood. It's not always easy. And there you are, nodding in agreement. Why? Because it's the truth, isn't it? Even when it's excellent, it's not easy. The depth of his devotion to his wife, though, is what strikes you the most. His attitude toward parenthood is another notable feature. It's obvious that his role as a father greatly influences his identity. He isn't the type to see parenting as a means to an end rather than an end in itself. Being a parent is Bubba's first priority. His father's famous quote, "Daddies don't just love their children every now and then, it's a love without end," seems to be his guiding principle in life. That level of commitment from a parent is what every child dreams of, isn't it? Someone who transforms you into their whole world, rather than only a portion of it. Sure, people love to guess his next move. Will any new music be released soon? Has he resumed his performance? Where does the future lie? Rumor has it that Bubba has a 5-year plan, albeit he hasn't publicly announced it. According to an insider, he has no plans to cease composing music with his dad anytime soon since he still enjoys doing it. According to another, he's still releasing songs and performing live sometimes. Doing what he likes, when he wants, without making any grand announcements or using any showy advertisements. Aims like that, though, aren't they? Being yourself, doing what makes you happy, and not worrying about anything? It would appear like Bubba Strait is the type of guy who can create an impression even when his voice isn't the most audible. He is modest, loves his family, and doesn't like to be the center of attention. Maybe all we need to know about him is what we see in those few glances he does provide us. Because the most subtle individuals often hold the deepest insights. They simply express them in their own unique manner. And isn't it incredible? We have reached the final segment of this video. Much obliged for your time. Like, comment, and subscribe for more videos like this one if you liked it. Press the play button on the video that appears for more exciting tales.